بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Let's continue on our beautiful journey in the world of al-i'rab, inflection. The next lesson is al-ahwal والعلاماتها, states and their signs. Al-kalimatu al-mu'rabatu, the inflected word, la budda, there's no escaping. In other words, la budda is an expression. La budda min is an expression, which means there's no escaping it. In other words, it is absolutely required. That's just an expression. La budda min an takuna fi halatin min arba'i ahwal. It has to be in one of four states. There are four states only. I understand that I'm not an expert in Latin, but I understand in Latin there are more than four states. They have nominative, accusative, genitive, jussive, and passive. I think it's dative state. In Arabic, there are only four states. And Latin, by the way, is an amazing language. It's also an inflected language. Arabic is an inflected language. Lughatun mu'raba. Inflected languages are complex, sophisticated languages that have words that change. And Arabic is an interesting language, one of the best and the greatest and the most powerful, most eloquent, the widest. It's an ocean. Latin also is an amazing language. It has inflection. So anyway, there are four states, okay? Every word that is mu'rab, note the key word here is al-mu'raba. The inflected word has got to be in one of four possible states. What are the states? The states are called ar-raf', wal-nasb, wal-jar, wal-jazm. These are four new technical terms that we're going to learn in this lesson. وَلِكُلِّ حَالَةٍ, and for each, وَلِكُلِّ, and for each حَالَةٍ, and for each state, hala is singular of ahwal. For each state, alamatun, there's a sign, muayyanatun, specific or specified. Tu'raful halatu biha, you can tell the state with the sign. An inflected word must be in one of four possible states. Rafa is nominative. By the way, I don't care too much. I'm not obsessed with these this English terminology. I care more about Arabic terminology, but some of you might find it helpful. Some of you might be reading other books. Some of you might be coming from a certain background. So that's why I mentioned it. I honestly care about learning Arabic in its own terms, literally own terms. So I will go ahead and mention it, but I'm not too obsessed with these names. Ar-rafa is nominative, accusative is nasb, and genitive is al-jar, and jussive is the last one, which is al-jazm. Each state each state has specific signs as shown below. So here's a table. So how do I know if a word is in the rafa state? An inflected word is in the rafa state, which is the nominative state. How do I know? I can tell that a word is in the rafa state by looking at the ending. If the ending has a dhamma, then I know, and again, there are some exceptions. This is just an introductory lesson. Exceptions are coming later, okay? Remember, every rule has exceptions, and that's a rule. So look at all these words that have dhamma ending. Zaydun, rajulun, imra'atun, talibun, mudarrisun. All of these words have one thing in common. They all have They're all in the state of ar-rafa. How do I know that Zaid, Rajul, Imra'a, Talib, Mudarris, they're all in the rafa state? Because they all end with dhamma. Now, dhamma and dhamma tanween for the purposes of i'rab are essentially the same thing. The difference will be in nakira and ma'rifah, definite and indefinite, which we will talk about later. So whether it is dhamma or dhamma tanween, it still counts as dhamma. Okay. Dhamma tanween implies certain things about a word, such as whether it's definite or indefinite, or if it's a proper masculine name or not. And so here's the story behind this tanween business. Read this word. What is this word? What did I just write? I wrote Zaydun. Now read this word, Zaydun. Wait a minute. This one sounds the same as this one. So think of it this way. Once upon a time, I'm just going to make up a story. It's a fake story, but it's just there to, make a point. Once upon a time, a long time ago, in a desert far away, there were Arabs. And the Arabs had nouns that ended with a noon and a sukoon on top of the noon, like Zaydun and Rajulun and Imra'atun and so on and so forth. And so they decided to write. And when they started writing, they realized, hey guys, we're wasting a lot of pen and paper writing this noon. And it would be kind of nice to come up with a shorthand. So they came with a shorthand and they said, okay, fine. One guy said, hey, I have an idea. Instead of writing this noon all the time, because we're going crazy writing all these noons, let's just delete the noon and put a second dhamma. Second dhamma to indicate the noon. So the first dhamma is the sign of rafa. The second dhamma simply means noon sakina. The second dhamma simply means a noon with a sukoon. So with that in mind, obviously that was a fake story, but I hope I got the point across. With that in mind, dhamma tanween and dhamma both are actually just dhamma, except that, of course, the tanween has an extra noon, and that noon creates a certain understanding, which is definite and indefinite. And all of that business, there's a special lesson coming up in which I will talk about, in just a few more lessons, we'll talk about this definite and indefinite tanween business. For now, what do I want you to know for now? I want you to know that when I say that Zaid has a dhamma ending, you might say, wait a minute, that's not a dhamma, that's a dhamma tanween. And I'm going to say it's the same thing. For grammatical purposes, for the purposes of i'rab, both are considered dhamma. So dhamma tanween has an extra noon, but it still has an original dhamma in it, okay? So that's the story behind dhamma. Does that make sense? Let me know if it doesn't make sense, post your comments. So all of these words have dhamma tanween ending, and they all are in what state? Rafa. Sometimes I joke, I say, that's a very rough state to be in. You guys get that? You'll be getting my stupid jokes throughout this, my bad jokes throughout this course. That's a very rough state to be in. Rafa. All right. So in any case, they all have rafa state because there's a dhamma ending. Now look at this next line. Ar-rajulu. Ar-rajulu. Hey, no tanween here. Why? Because of al. When al comes, as we learned in Easy Introduction to Arabic, when al comes, what happens to the tanween? It disappears. a word cannot have both al and tanween. That's not allowed. That's illegal. It doesn't even make sense because al implies the, and tanween generally speaking, tanween implies it's indefinite. And again, as I mentioned before, more on definite, indefinite later. Al-mar'atu, the woman. At-talibu, the student. Al-mudarrisu, the teacher. So what is common in all these words? They all end in dhamma. And what is common in all of these words? They all end in dhamma. The point that I'm trying to make is al doesn't change the state. Just because you have an al, the word still has a dhamma as a sign to indicate that the state of this mu'rab word is rafa. Now, when does a word get the rafa state? When does a word get a nasab state? That will be covered in the upcoming next few lessons. For now, I want you to know that there is something called state. There are 4 states. The first state, the most important state, is a rafa, and its sign is dhamma. And here are some examples. The next state, and by the way, here it says al-alamatul asliya, the default sign or the original sign. That right there is a hint that is dhamma the only sign for all the words in the Arabic language that will be in rafa state from now until the end of time? The answer is, of course, no. There are the other signs a word can be in that state. But let's not get ahead of us. For now, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to teach you grammar in small baby steps, inshallah, or small steps to build your skills. That's pedagogy, right? I can't give you everything in one go. An-nasb is the next state, which in English called accusative, whatever that means. I don't really care. Al-fatha is the default sign, al-alamatul asliya. And here are some examples. Zaydan, rajulan, imra'atan, taliban, mudarrisan, ar-rajula, al-mar'ata, al-taliba, al-mudarrisa. And then finally, here's a mudari. Lan yashraba zaydun. Lan yashraba. Here's mudari in the nasab state. And I didn't mention mudari here, so let me quickly mention that here as well. Here's yashrabu. Here's mudari in the rafa state with the dhamma ending. Okay, and here's mudari in the nasab state with the fatha ending. The mudari entered into the nasab state because of lan. We'll talk more about that later. So lan forced a change on the mudari. The most important point, al-fatha. All of these have fatha. Remember, tanween doesn't make any difference. Tanween or al, they all are considered to have a fatha ending, which means they all are in the nasab state, which is accusative state. So if a word has a fatha ending, it's in the nasab state in general. Exceptions and details will be introduced slowly and gradually in the upcoming lessons. The third state is al-jar state, which is genitive. Okay, whatever that means. I don't care what genitive means, but I just listed it here as I mentioned before. And its sign is al-kasra, okay? And Zaydin, Rajulin, Imra'atin, Talibin, Mudarrisin, in the kasra. Al-Rajuli, Al-Mar'ati, Al-Talibi, Al-Mudarrisi, no tanween, but all of these words are in what state? Al-Jar. And they all end in kasra. And in fact, the kasra is a sign that's telling me, hey, I'm in jar state. Fatha is a sign that's telling me, hey, I'm in nasab state. Dhamma is a sign that's telling me, hey, I'm in rafa state. So we've got 3 states done so far. Each state has a sign. And you can see it's a unique sign. Dhamma here, fatha here, kasra here. And then finally, the last and 4th state, the sign is al-jazm, excuse me, the state is called al-jazm, the sign is sukoon. The state is called al-jazm, which in English terminology is jasif, whatever the heck that means, I don't care. Al-jazm, the sign is sukoon, and how do I get only a mudari can be in the jazm state, and to get a mudari in a jazm state, you have to put a certain type of particle before it. So example, lam tashrab Fatima. Fatima did not drink. Fatima did not drink. So here the point of interest is the word tashrab. Tashrab. Look at the sukoon ending here. And here, la tashrab, don't drink. La taf'al, don't do it. This is called, what kind of la is this? There are 9 types of la. We studied 5 types in the easy introduction to Arabic book 2. This type is called what? Who remembers this? What is this type of la? Yes, good job. Nahiya. For those of you who know Urdu, I say nahi karo. La an-nahiya, nahi karo. La taf'al, la tashrab. The sukoon ending. So those are the states and their signs, and here's a graphical representation. Al-ahwal, there are 4 states for an inflected word. Raf'un, nasbun, jarrun, and jazmun. And here's some additional information. The rafa' state, only an ism and mudari can be in the rafa' state. The nasab state, also the same thing. Only an ism and mudari can be in the nasab state. Jar, only an ism, lil ismi faqat, and jazm lil mudari faqat. Okay, lil mudari faqat. So once again, the rafa state, what kind of word can be in rafa state? Only an ism and mudari can possibly be in the rafa state. So it is invalid to say that an ism is in jazm, or it's invalid to say that an mudari is in jar. And we'll get plenty of practice on this, so don't worry too much about it. Just keep a mental note that not every word can be in all 4 of these states. It is not possible for a given word to be used in 4 different sentences where in each sentence, it has a different state. One word cannot have all 4 possible states. Okay, so that's an important point. Rafa' for ism and mudari, nasb for ism and mudari, jar for ism only, faqat, and jazm for mudari, faqat. And here is an exercise. So we're done with the lesson. Let's do the first one. Zaydan, what is the hala of this word? Let me make the font bigger. What is the hala? What is the state of the word Zaydan? Yes, you guessed it correctly. It is nasab. So I'm going to put down here. I can put down nasbun like this, or I can put down for the answer an-nasbu. Like that. I don't care whether you put it with tanween or with al. I get it. It's the same answer. So the hala is nasb. Al-halatu nasb. Nasbun or an-nasb, okay? And the question is, what is the sign? How do I know that it's in the nasb? Yes, you guessed it correctly. The sign is al-fatha. Al-fatha. Or you can just say fathatun like that. I don't care. Because you're not using a full sentence. So I don't care if you put al or not. As long as you put down fatha in the test or quiz, I'm good. And the same way you complete the rest of the questions and check your answers using the online answer key. And that's it. Don't go to the next lesson. It will scare you because I really have to explain that one. That one's quite technical. So what have we completed today? We completed the 4 states. Every inflected word must be in one of the 4 states. The first 2 states, rafa and nasb, are for ism and mudari. The third state is for ism only. The 4th state is for al-mudari only. That's it. Complete the exercise. Check the answers using the online answer key, and then there's going to be a quiz. Any questions? Is everything crystal clear or clear as mud? I hope crystal clear. But if it's not clear, post your question. I'll be glad to answer it as soon as I can. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-mursaleen, Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.